Welcome to Life Begins at Midlife. You thought midlife came with a crisis. Nobody told you it came with a choice. The choice to stop shrinking and start living. The choice to put yourself first and not apologize for it. I'm Jacqui Bourne, your host, and every week I'm bringing you the real, unfiltered conversations about what midlife looks like when you decide to do it your way. Grab your drink of choice and come on in. So hello and welcome to today's episode of Life Begins at Midlife. We have in the studio today Meena McDonald as our guest. Meena, welcome. Would you like to tell the guests a little bit about yourself?
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me, first of all. I'm really excited to be here. So I'm Meena and I have worked in marketing for decades, literally decades. And I've kind of worked client side, agency side. But what I've kind of pulled into over the last few years of what I love the most is storytelling. And that's using stories to bring brands, businesses, products, services to life and to make them interesting, because we're now, I feel we're in a world where it's really hard for people to stand out amongst the noise. There's so much out there and people are struggling to differentiate between brands, between products, because everything's kind of grey, boring and bland. And what's unique to a business is its story, because absolutely nobody has the same story. So drawing on their own stories, whether it's their team, their product, their service, how it was structured, how it was set up, is unique, and that's what is interesting and will appeal to their audience. And that's the bit I love the most. So for me, it's helping businesses cut through that noise, creating marketing campaigns that are story-led, that build an emotional connection with their audience. Because again, there's lots and lots of research that shows that if you build an emotional connection with your audience, they're on your side and you're there on the way to building trust. And that's what I love the most. And it isn't just exciting, interesting products. You can give me the most obscure product and there is always a story behind it. And one of the things I get regularly from clients or from people I speak to is, oh, we don't really have anything interesting to say. We don't have any stories. And, and 10 minutes, 15 minutes into the conversation, they've already told me 10, 15 stories. There's all sorts of little snippets of things they're coming out with and they're talking about that can be turned into stories. And it's, again, stories don't have to be these long, huge written pieces. They can be little snippets of videos, tiny little social media posts. They can be podcasts. They can be anything. They literally can be anything. But it's having something there that's unique to you, that makes you a little bit different. So that's what I love, and that's me in a nutshell.
Absolutely, yes. I'm assuming then that ties in, with anybody, because we've all got our own story. So even if you are a person wanting to set up your own, I don't know, personal brand or something like that, we've all got our own stories to share. And that's the way, if you go back into the old days, people used to sit around the campfires and they used to share stories. And that's the way communities are built. And, are you finding that people are sort of disconnecting because of the fact that we're not sharing those stories like we used to?
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right there. I think that disconnect is the biggest thing, and that's why people struggle, and that's why businesses struggle. And there is a huge thing about understanding your audience and them feeling understood. So if somebody doesn't feel understood, they're not going to want to connect with you and not going to want to buy from you. So it's feeling understood and building those little communities, and they are communities, where people come and they share and they tell people about you. At the moment, there's lots of noise about social media and how it works and what works and metrics. And one of the biggest things that has changed and has grown in that world is people sharing and saving what you post. And that's one of the biggest metrics that is really, really valuable. And that shows that then, if you're sharing it with your community, then you're going, oh, look at this, look what I found. I've started to use such and such. And it's building that community. And for me, it's making your audience your cheerleaders. So they then go and sell for you, basically. That's your ultimate goal. If you can do that and spread the word, not just yourself, but getting other people to talk about you, that's a fantastic way of doing it. So it's really, really important to have that connection. And stories, as you say, are as old as you can get. It's innate in us, and that's the big thing. And we've kind of just forgotten that. And it's almost going back to the basics and saying, hang on a minute, we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. We just need to go back to what we know works. And we know that emotional connection works, and that stories are one of the best ways to create that.
Absolutely. And it creates that connection between people where they can feel like they've got this common ground, if they can then retell that story or that, that joke or whatever it is
Yeah,
along and keep passing it forward. That's something that keeps us connected. And like you say, if people are then sharing the brands and showing that they're using the brands and on social media, that then just keeps that ripple effect moving forward.
absolutely. And that's so important, that ripple
Mm.
effect, and building that sort of momentum going forward. And that's how you do it. You do it because people don't remember stats and charts and facts, but they remember a story. If somebody's told you a story, whether it's in the pub down the road, whether it's at a networking event, it doesn't matter. If somebody's told you a story and it's been really interesting and you've learned something new or it's been funny, you'll
Mm.
remember that. You will remember that. And we connect, and there's loads of science behind it as well that shows how our brains connect when we listen to a story, that we emotionally connect as well, and are in that same place. So it's sort of almost like watching a film. So if you're watching, I don't know, a Netflix documentary or something, and there's something and somebody's on edge and somebody's running down the road, you're there, you're present with that person. And there's loads of MRI studies that show that you are feeling the emotion the person you are listening to or watching
Mm.
is feeling. And that's where that emotional connection is built.
Yeah.
And that's when you start to build everything like trust, which is hugely important in business and brand building. So it's utilizing all our basic skills, which we all have.
Yeah.
We've all got them there, and it's just utilizing them.
And that's the person you'll remember in the room as well, as that person that told you that story, the person
Yes,
that stood up and told you all these stats and all these things, and you're just going to zone out and ignore them, or listen in the moment, but when you walk out the room you're not going to remember that, but you're going to remember that whoever it was that told you the story about whatever it was, dog running around the road or whatever, chasing the cat or something. You're going to remember that story because you could actually feel the emotions surrounding that, whereas the stats are like, it's
oh,
emotional
absolutely. And
attachment
do
to
you
it.
know, it astounds me, still astounds me that I can go to places where somebody's doing a presentation and it is still death by PowerPoint. It absolutely astounds me. And you can physically feel the room disconnecting. You can
Yeah.
see people starting to look out of the window, look at their phones, and you're thinking, have you not clocked this? How is it even possible to be in that space?
Mm.
You've got an audience there, an
Yeah.
audience who've given up their time to listen to you, and you're not connecting with them,
Yeah.
and you're not using that time and that valuable space
Mm.
to connect with these people and show them that you understand them and what it is they want, and give them something valuable. So it's quite shocking that that still goes on, and I think it's a whole world that needs turning around to say, we're people, we're humans, we want to connect. And to me, polished is the worst thing in the world. you
Mm.
know um People don't buy polished, people don't buy slick and smooth, they buy human beings, and we make mistakes, and we go and we forget, and we miss words, and we lose our space. But that's okay, because that just shows we're
Absolutely.
human. And I think it's far more acceptable to show emotion, be vulnerable, and make mistakes, and people will remember all of those things, and they will from somebody with a slick polished presentation, with a load of stats and
I think you
charts
wonder
that,
what's the catch. It's like
yeah,
you
yeah,
almost like have your hackles rising, and you think,
yeah,
oh, what's coming here?
absolutely.
Because if
And
you can relax, you're more inclined to trust them a lot quicker.
yeah, yeah, and it is, and you've got to make people relax and not feel kind of a little bit edgy or anything like that, because
Mm.
they'll never be in that space, in the right space, to be open to you and what you have to say.
Yeah.
So it's creating all those things, and all those things are absolute humanly innate characteristics within us all. We've just got to bring them back out again. And
Yeah.
as I say, that isn't just on a personal level, it's on a personal level, it's fantastic as well, but on a business level, it's just
Mm.
magic. It's absolutely magic if you can make that work. And it's just getting businesses to understand that that's the missing piece
Mm.
that we've forgotten about, that we need to bring back in.
And it's about reading the room as well. You may have planned to say certain things, but if you're feeling that the room's not quite getting what you
Yeah.
wanting to get across, it's being able to just slightly shift, go
You
to
know
the left,
that
to the right, and
you are so right. You are so right, because sometimes you might make assumptions that this is what people want to hear, and actually you get there and you notice people are distracting or not responding or not asking the questions you want them to ask. And that's hugely, hugely important. And a bit of advice I would give, and this is what I do when I do talks, and I love keynote speaking now. I absolutely love. It's something I was petrified of, but now I'm very happy to go on a stage and speak. But one of the biggest things I would say is do your research. Do your research. Find out who's going to be in the room, what kind of people they are, what businesses they have, what they might be interested in. Do the research, look at people. But I'd also then, like I've done, when I met you, I spent time listening to people in the room while they were having coffee and having a chat, and then introduce those things during the talk. So yes, that means your talk doesn't go smoothly and it's not all slickly polished and in order, but if you're actually genuinely being relatable to somebody by bringing them into your presentation, then you're involving them, and people feel that, and they feel the warmth and the fact that you've listened to them, that you've heard them, and that's really, really important.
yeah,
And I would have, a year ago, I would have said that would have been so challenging. How do you bring that into your presentation? But actually, it's just by being human, by being the most natural thing in the world. And when you're giving examples of something, bring them in instead of something that you already had that you were going to talk about. Actually, swap it around, talk about them instead, or say, just like such and such said over here. Yeah, that's relatable to this, and just bring them into it and get them involved.
yeah,
And that's the way of connecting, people remembering you. And that person might not be your audience, but their best friend or their child or their mother might be your audience. So you can't ever make that assumption that just because they might not be spot on, they don't know somebody that does, because as
yeah.
many times the recommendations get passed on as well.
Absolutely, 100%. And it comes back to being slick and polished. If you're so slick and polished, you're so stuck in your ways that you can't even imagine, you know, going off script because, I won't remember what's coming next. But if you're living and breathing what you're talking about, it makes things so much easier because then you're just talking from the heart, really. You might have your script or
Absolutely.
your plan, but you can kind of like ad lib a little bit because it's coming from within, not from your head.
Absolutely. And if you've got that passion, then it will just flow. And as I say, if you get stuck or anything happens, it's fine. But I think one of the biggest things is listen. Listen to what people are saying. Listen to what your audience's pain points are. Listen to the
Mhm.
things that they're saying, whether you've done that research beforehand or you're doing it in the room beforehand, just there when you're present. Just do that and listen to what there is thereafter, because that's who you're appealing to. People often forget the heroes in the room are the people in the room, not you. You're not the hero. And I say that so often to people. You are not the hero. It's
Yeah,
your audience or your product. You need to connect the
absolutely.
two. You need to connect and not just talk about, oh yes, and we did this and we're wonderful at this and people just get so bored with that.
Yeah. I've worked with this brand, and we've done this, and we've made this much money. And at the end of the day, it's like, really?
Really,
Take
and
me?
why is that relevant to me? And it's that
Yeah,
relevance, and it's being
yeah,
relatable. And
absolutely.
by listening, you can be relatable. And I think
Mm.
I think listening is it's a skill I think we're not very good at anymore.
100%, I agree.
I
Yeah.
think it's we desperately want to tell our own. Oh yes, and when I did that as well, da, 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 instead of just sitting back and letting that person flow and
Mm.
letting that person tell their story. And it's exactly like when I say, people say, we haven't got any stories to tell. Honestly, we're so boring. We make such a boring product. What can we say? You just let them talk and you just listen. And the more you give them the space, the more they'll start to tell you things, and you'll go, there you go.
Yeah,
You've just given me 5 stories that I can write
absolutely.
and produce for you. And it's giving people that space and listening.
Yeah. I always say you've got two ears and one mouth for a reason. Listen twice as
Yes,
much as what you speak.
it's so
Yeah.
true.
We're
It's
all
so
so
true.
busy thinking about what we're going to say next.
Yeah.
instead of actually, like you say, truly being in the moment and hearing what the person is actually saying. Whether there's an awkward pause afterwards while you think of what you're saying next, that's probably better than straight away jumping in with the next bit of conversation.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think people don't like the silent gaps either, but gaps are very
They're
powerful,
the
particularly if
best.
you're presenting. It's just having that space and having that, because we just want to fill it because we're all nervous and we just want to think,
Yeah.
oh no,
Yeah.
does it
Yeah.
sound like we're not flowing? We need to fill that gap. Having those gaps are really, really powerful.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
creating that space around, your product, your brand, just letting people feel what it is. And we're here, we're appealing to people's emotions, so that's what's really powerful and really important to understand and realize. And it's something I think, we've in the world of AI, where AI has very valuable tools, etc., we've forgotten we've forgotten how to communicate in so many ways. And it's almost going back to the basics. To me, what worked in the 70s, 80s, 90s still works now.
Yeah.
It's not that the marketing world has changed so dramatically in the last few decades that what worked then doesn't work now. It does. We just have different tools that we can express it with and different platforms we can use, but the fundamentals are the same. The story,
Absolutely.
the connection, the message,
Mm.
using humor, bringing that form of connection in that people will relate to. None of that has changed.
Yeah. Some of the greatest marketing that came out of those times anyway. If you look back at the old adverts, we still chuckle and laugh at them now.
Oh, they're fantastic. I've still got one of my favourites is a Levi's advert, and it was in the 70s, and it was produced by a guy who's an absolute hero to me, Sir John Hegarty, and he's one of the guys that created the advert, and it's young. I think it's Nick Kamen. He's an extremely good looking young man, and he walks into a laundrette. It's set, there's loads of beautiful music, fantastic music going on, upbeat music. Walks into a laundrette, there's people sat there reading their paper. It's very, very sort of old. There's kids messing about because they're bored, etc. And he goes and he takes his jeans off. He gets some stones and he puts them in the washing machine. And then he just sits there and reads his own book, and it's just stonewashed jeans because that's
Yeah.
what Levi's like. But it's so powerful. It's funny. It's got fantastic music which you can really relate to, and it's just so powerful.
Yeah.
And nowhere did they say Levi's right until the end.
Yeah.
They didn't have to say it. They didn't have to say it, and that was the magic of it. That
Absolutely.
was the
And
magic
look,
of it.
all these years later, we're still talking about
Oh, it's fantastic. I will watch that regularly and use it regularly as my favourite because I think it connects so beautifully. And it is such a famous advert. But you're absolutely right. There are so many things that were so simple.
Yeah. And
So
that's
simple.
it. Sometimes it's the simple things that bring us
Yeah.
back to that warm and fuzzy feeling, I think. And that's what we're craving in this
Yes.
fast-paced world.
Yeah. And it is. And it is. It's because it's so fast and people don't give the time and the space to things that it's very difficult to get noticed.
Mm.
In the business world, in marketing, it's kind of like, what do you do? How do you stop the scroll? How do you stop people whizzing through, and how do you get them to notice you? So it's something that's different. It's something that has a hook, something that grabs people's attention. And once you've got that and you've got their attention, tell your story, tell whatever it is you want to tell, whether it's about your product, your people, whatever it is, but something fun, something interesting.
Yeah,
And we've all got it, and it just
absolutely.
exists, and it's just doing that, and it's cutting through that noise. And I think stories can do that in a way nothing else can. Nothing
Absolutely.
else can. But we have so many more tools at our disposal now. We've got everything from podcasts like we're doing, all the social media platforms that didn't exist before, so many more webinars, creating short videos, all that kind of stuff. There's so many tools at our disposal. So all we've got is more tools, but the same connection works. So it's
Yeah.
bringing them in and using them to the best of your ability.
It should be
Instead, I
easier
think
for
what we're
us.
doing, it should be, but what we're doing is going, oh, there's this fancy new tool. Oh, I wonder what I should do with that, and start to create different ways of using it rather than going back to the fundamental and saying, actually, doing this works, but I'll use this tool to do it instead. So it's almost swapping it around and saying, these are the things that we know that work. What tools can we use to take them to a wider audience, to a different audience? You can reach people now worldwide so easily. Couldn't do that many years ago,
No,
without having a huge budget.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's created more of a level playing field because the tools are accessible to everybody. They're not just there for the big boys who have got millions of pounds to spend on marketing and advertising.
Yeah.
They're there, open to everybody. And if you utilise the tools properly, it's a level playing field. So the disruptors can go and challenge the big boys out there, which I think is fantastic. I love disruptors.
I know.
I love disruptors.
I love watching things like Dragon's Den and things, and watching these new ideas come to life, and then you see them a year later and see how amazing whatever it is they've created. And it's like, oh yeah, go you.
Yeah, exactly. And there is, and it's we don't want to crush that creativity because we've got these tools. The tools shouldn't be crushing the creativity. The creativity should be used and utilising these tools to take them to different places. And make them even more creative because the tools are very clever. But that fundamental being fun and being creative and being entrepreneurs and things like the Dragon's Den, it's great. It's funny you mentioned Dragon's Den. I've been involved with the local university and some of their MBA students, and I agreed to do a Dragon's Den session, but didn't know beforehand that I was then invited to do a guest speaker session. So I said, oh, okay, fine. Didn't realise it was 2 hours. Now, 2 hours is a long time to speak. And I was like, oh, I've got to speak to these guys for 2 hours. Anyway, I did, and I made it about them. I made it about their projects. I researched them before. I asked them loads of questions and really brought it to life for them. So that worked brilliantly. But I did a Dragon's Den session last year, and I'm doing one again in about a week's time.
Oh, how exciting.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun because this Dragon's Den session is their last bit of their MBA. That's it. They finish after that. And it's kind of almost the make and break point. So they really, really have to be slick in it and give you their full, absolute 100%. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to launch. This is my plan. Here's my budget. Here's all the background research. Here's the market space for it. Here's my marketing advertising ideas. I've even created a little ad. It's fantastic. It's so exciting.
It's exciting that they're doing it locally as well.
It's fantastic, isn't it? And I love it. And I'm very fair, very, very, very supportive, very proactive with giving suggestions of how they could add things, improve things, but also very fair because some of the ideas do need challenging.
Yeah,
and they
no
need
point
to know,
in encouraging them up the street when they're going to potentially be successful.
But it's so much fun, and it's a brilliant concept. It's a brilliant concept for the young entrepreneurs. Really, really is.
Absolutely.
But yeah, great. It's such a good thing to do.
It's exciting. Look forward to seeing some posts and that about.
Yes, absolutely.
So talking about socials and things like that, I will be putting your links and that in the show notes. Is there anything you'd like to, add to, for anybody that's out there?
You will always find me on MeenaMcDonald.com, and the biggest bit of social media I use is I really just use LinkedIn, and I do a newsletter. So you will find me very easily on LinkedIn, and you'll see my posts. And I think it gives you a good feel of me. And if you go to my website, it's got other podcasts and things I've done. And again, I think they just give a really good feel of me and who I am, how I approach clients, which I think is the important thing. I think that's what people want to know is who are you and why you above, somebody else. It's a funny thing you say that. When I first set up the website for Meena McDonald Marketing, one of the biggest criteria was it cannot look like a marketing website. It cannot look like a corporate, boring, grey marketing website where it's all very we do. So I just remember thinking, I'm just going to use what I love. And I love sunsets, and I love nature, and I love hot air balloons, and I love animals. So I just thought, well, why not? That's me. That reflects me.
100%.
And I've had some brilliant feedback. I had one person who was my first ever client actually when I went freelance, and he said to me, "I thought you were setting up a holiday company." Well, maybe I can.
No, I could always be another
you
branch
never
in my
know.
company.
But Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's easy to find me and easy to get a real good feel of me through any of those platforms and those channels.
Brilliant. So yeah, it's been lovely speaking with you today,
Thank
and
you.
I look forward to seeing your new adventures and things like that on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. And yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you.
And that's a wrap on another brilliant conversation. I hope it's left you feeling fired up, inspired, and ready to take on whatever this next chapter has in store for you. If you've loved this episode, hit subscribe so you never miss a thing, and share it with a midlife woman in your life who needs to hear it. That's how we build this revolution, one conversation at a time. And if something we talked about today has sparked something in you, come and find me, book an insight call, and let's talk about what's possible for you. Or follow me on Substack where I go even deeper between episodes. Links for everything are in the show notes below. Until next time, remember, life doesn't just begin at 20, it begins again at midlife. See you next week.